The following is a local resident producers program. The program content is the sole responsibility of the producer and does not necessarily reflect the views or policies of CATV2, Oshkosh Community Access Television, the City of Oshkosh, the Oshkosh Cable Television Advisory Commission, or Time Warner Cable.
Hi everyone, welcome to another edition of Eye on Oshkosh. Cheryl Hentz here along with my co-host Ann Rylance, and we're very pleased to welcome back for the first time in probably about 2.5, 3 years, Chancellor Richard Wells from the University of Wisconsin-Oshkosh. Thanks so much for being here.
Well, thank you, Cheryl.
It has been a while.
Well, I don't think it's been that long, but maybe you felt that way. I didn't.
No, it has been because I can tell.
Huh?
Yeah, it was. Well, I didn't check it out, but I remember when you were here last. I think it was around the same time that Axle Tech was having some of their strike issues and so forth. And weren't you on about that time?
It could have been a couple years ago.
I thought so.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's.
But thanks
in
for
any
inviting me
event,
back. I thought you guys forgot about me.
No, we've just been so swamped. So many people wanting to come on the show.
Well, they don't have the problem of interim city manager at UWO.
That's right.
Well, I hope they don't have one after this show either.
No, we're good.
Please be good to me.
We do have a lot of things to chat with you about and kind of get caught up on some things. But I guess, the first thing is school's just started. As we're taping this, school's been in session about a week or so. And, as compared to other years, how has it been going so far? The transition of students been pretty decent so far?
It's been very good. We work hard every year to try to make it easier for particularly the new students coming to the campus for the first time, and we're off to a great start. Our enrollment is projected to be up somewhere between, maybe just a little bit under 2% over last year, and over the last about 7 years since fall of 2000, we're projecting that we will added 900 full-time equivalent more students. So. Basically, an institution, added the institution the size of Ripon College. So that's a lot of access, so to speak, that the region's needed over that period of time. And so we're off to a great start. I think this is one of the best falls, end of the summer, falls, I guess autumn's in a couple days that we've had weather-wise. And those are the kinds of things that help with ease of transition, particularly for new students coming to the campus. So
sure.
And very exciting.
Well, the Board of Regents back at the beginning of August, I believe it was, had approved a tuition increase. Now that would have gone into effect with this particular school year, so that didn't really seem to hurt you if your enrollment is up, 2% over last year.
They approved at least for the time being basically a 5.5% increase in tuition, which has been one of the lowest increases, I think, in about 7 or 8 years. I think that's helped a little bit. In fact, one of the good things that the Regents did is they froze tuition at the UW colleges, because this issue of affordability is extremely important, because the state has not been able to keep the kind of funding levels it has in the past, and cutting out, like at Oshkosh, about $12 million of funding over the last 6 years. That's been somewhat offset by the increases in the tuition, which have not been small. So to be able to slow down that increase this time through was quite good.
How do you explain a tuition increase to students? I mean, everybody is strapped for cash. Budgets are strained all over the place. Some are feeling it more than others. How do you explain to students, why tuition's going up 5.5%?
Well, if you look back, say 6 or 7 years ago, it's gone up something like about 70%. I mean, that's a huge increase in tuition, and the major reason for that, the number one driver of that, has been the state funding, the lack of it. The decrease in the state funding has been offset to some extent by the increase in the tuition, and we still had to cut our budget. So the biggest factor is the state has not been able to keep the same level of funding up it has been in the past. And the second factor, of course, is just that, same old thing, cost of living increases and inflation and things of that sort. So those are the two drivers The frustrating thing is, we tried to keep the tuition increases as low as possible, and they haven't been able to, so to speak, offset the loss of the funding from the state. So we have less funds, and so in some ways the students are being exposed at least to a budgetary situation where they're paying more, but the institution has less to work with to enhance the quality of their experience. And that's been quite a challenge, but I've been very pleased, and I very much admire the faculty and staff at UW-Oshkosh, because in some ways the quality of what we've been able to do has been strained, if not reduced, because of the budget cuts. In other ways, we've become an even stronger institution and maintained increased access, because we're a public entity and we have to do the best we can to provide the access that the public needs to higher education in Northeast Wisconsin.
Well, I know Dan's got some budget-related questions too, but with regard to the budget in Madison, I mean, they're still kind of wrestling with that. Whenever they do get something passed, I mean, if you had to gaze into your crystal ball, Chancellor, do you anticipate any dramatic type cuts?
Well, Cheryl, it's hard to tell, because there are basically 4 versions of the budget out there. There's the governor's, there's the Joint Finance Committee, there's the State Senate, and there's the State Assembly. In 3 of the 4 of those budgets, the funding necessary to cover the costs to continue for the UW institutions is fully funded, as well as additional funding to cover the growth in the enrollment. In the State Assembly version, unfortunately, there's some funding for the growth agenda, so that we can provide more faculty for students. So they gave us, for example, at Oshkosh, in their budget, it's $2 million more. But then they cut the overall Oshkosh budget $6.5 million. So the net effect is a $4.5 million cut. And I'm not necessarily the best math wizard, but that's a cut.
That hurts.
And so, but the other 3, so there's like a lot of things in the state budget right now, there's a real gap there. And so it leaves people that have the responsibility for, so to speak, managing a very important and critical public good called the University of Wisconsin, in this case, University of Wisconsin-Oshkosh. What do? You say, well, we got 3 out of 4, but they're still negotiating. So it's just hard to say where this is going to land. And the uncertainty of it has obviously an awful lot of cost. And the distinction of being the only state in the nation now that does not have a state budget is something that, as a Wisconsinite, I'm not particularly proud of.
Right.
Yeah. Let's stick on the budget for a minute. What does the Wisconsin Republican Party have against the UW system? I mean, why is the UW system their whipping stick?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily characterize the Republican Party as a whole as having something against the UW
Madison
institutions.
legislators that
Well,
are Republicans.
certain let's put it this way: certain key Republican legislators, I guess, have some significant concerns with the UW institutions. I honestly believe a number of those, quite frankly, are ideological. In other words, they, in my opinion, inappropriately cast universities as just all these bunch of liberals and people that are trying to put a particular political agenda in the classroom and all that stuff. And quite frankly, I just think that's lack of understanding what really goes on in our universities. Then I think there are Republican legislators, and there are probably some Democrat ones too, that think the universities are bloated, they're not managed particularly well, they could be more efficient, they can handle all these cuts. And so those are probably the 2 factors that lead to a significant subset of the Republican legislators not necessarily making UW institutions a priority for funding and making us more or less a priority for funding cuts. On the other hand, there are Republican legislators like Cheryl, our senator, who very much understands the strategic importance of investing in UW institutions to better serve the citizens, for example, of Northeast Wisconsin, to ensure a bright economic future and a bright future for our communities in the state. So they're not all of one mind. I mean, there's party issues and so on going here. And I think the Northeastern delegation, which is primarily Republican, I also need to say that Gordon Hentz is doing a great job, a Democrat, and a lot of circles in Madison and I'm in, they're calling him one of the best, if not the best, freshman legislators up there. So we're really blessed, I think, to have 2 very thoughtful representatives here from Oshkosh. My sense is that generally the caucus of legislators in Northeast Wisconsin, who are mostly Republican, are very supportive of the growth agenda and the funding. But they have colleagues that have some differences of opinion in terms of how important or not the UW institutions are and whether or not they can really operate with less.
Can I put you on the spot with Senator Scott Fitzgerald of Juneau? Where does he fit this?
Well, Senator Fitzgerald,
a UWO graduate,
yes,
right?
And his brother Jeff too, who
Yeah.
we rightly recognize as outstanding alums several years ago from the institution. They are in very key leadership positions right now, and I guess putting me on the spot at a certain level, I've had wonderful access to both of them. Anytime I've asked to talk with them and to make our case and to listen to the concerns that they have. They've given me a lot of good advice as to what some of the concerns that they and some of the members of their delegation have regarding UW institutions. They generally say things like, well, we love UW-Oshkosh, it's great. It's not Oshkosh, it's the system that we don't like, and a lot of times I tease legislators and I say, maybe one of the things we shouldn't have done in Wisconsin is the Capitol and the system office and UW-Madison in the same city. Maybe we should put them in different cities and we wouldn't have some of this kind of tension that's going on.
A fun question. Is Senator Fitzgerald a candidate for an honorary degree this year at UW?
I don't know. I don't know who those candidates are yet,
I'm teasing.
That could be.
I want to turn to economic development. This is the most...
Can I
Yeah,
just
I'm
interject?
sorry.
I got one more budget-related type
Okay.
thing.
All right.
Sorry. One thing that has helped out the budget is the fact that you all recently were reaccredited.
Yes.
And, explain that has actually put tens of millions of dollars into the UWO system that, you otherwise would not have, right?
Yeah, what it basically does, to just make it clear and simple about why it's important, accreditation, every university in the country, if they want to continue to get federal financial aid for their students, must be accredited by one of 6 regional accrediting bodies in the nation. And every 10 years you go through it. Usually you take 2 or 3 years to get ready for this. You go through a reaccreditation process. And someone says, well, so what? What would happen if you didn't get reaccredited? And what would happen is, at UW-Oshkosh, I think it's probably pretty close to $30 million of federal financial aid that our students get. So if we're not accredited, they don't have that federal financial aid. And quite frankly, this is true for both public and private institutions. A lot of people don't understand the private universities get a lot of public money, essentially through federal financial aid, federal grants and contracts, and so on, that type of thing. So we all take this very seriously. And one of the things that we're very pleased with about that, Cheryl, is that for good reason, and I think it's been good, accreditation has gotten a lot tougher in the last 10 years in particular. And it's not very common anymore that you would go through this review and you would get reaccredited unconditionally for the maximum period of 10 years. That shows there's great confidence in the institution, the quality of the faculty and the staff, the way the institution is being managed, which, that's good for the administrative staff at the institution. And particularly, I think this team was hugely impressed with how the institution continued to move forward, provided more access, generally became a better institution while we were in an extremely tough fiscal situation with having $12 million cut from our budget, faculty and staff, and getting minimal to no raises during this period of time. They were very impressed with that. They were also very concerned, and I have to say this too, about how administratively lean the institution is. And this is something that it baffles me a little bit. I understand it at a certain level. The UW institutions are widely known as the leanest administratively institutions in the nation. And we get people coming from all over the country and the world to come and see, how does Wisconsin do this? But there are people, some of those people in the Republican Party and some Democrats, that say, oh no, they're just bloated. We got to cut them more. And I tease them every once in a while, and I say, well, at least give us credit for being the skinniest fat people in the United States. I mean, come on, be fair here. But this is a group of people from the outside, and I've been involved with these things for 30 years myself, and I've never seen a team go in and point out that concern. because there are a lot of faculty on these teams and others, and they don't want to necessarily go there, but they were very concerned by that. So some of the advice they gave us in terms of things that we need to do better was directly attributed to the fact that we had to cut out 60 positions, 59 positions, that were administrative and staff positions. We slowed down filling tenured and tenure track faculty positions and hired more what we call teaching academic staff to get through this period. So that ratio of tenured track faculty to teaching academic staff needs to move a little bit more to more tenured track faculty. So we are trying to do more tenured track faculty searches. So it's just the way that the campus has kind of dealt with this. In some ways, I guess if there's a silver lining behind any cloud, is it's brought out the character that was always there in the faculty and staff and students at UW-Oshkosh.
Turn to economic development. This is, as I said before, my top question tonight. While Oshkosh struggles with economic development, UWO under you has really flourished. Examples: facelifts at the Halsey Science Building and Taylor Hall. You bought the Newman Center. You got your hand slapped a little bit, but it was a neat idea, I thought. $21 million wellness center has been completed, and the $7 million parking ramp is under construction. What to me is most significant about this is that you have accomplished this building in years of declining state support for higher education and without the one dirty word in Oshkosh, TIFs. I want you to tell the people in Oshkosh, what's your secret? How did you do this?
Well, okay, I gotta go up on this. Well, let me back up just a little bit. When I came here 7 years ago, I'm starting my 8th year. One of the things that I was very excited by is, and I knew the reputation of Wisconsin universities, and I got to know the people on the search and one thing or another. I was very impressed with the quality of the faculty and staff and the students that I met. And I was, on the other hand, I was kind of shocked at the plant, at the physical facility. And it amazed me that there hadn't been a freestanding academic building built on the state's third largest university campus since 1971. And I thought, one of the things that I had to make as a priority coming here, and actually Chancellor Kerrigan got this started. You mentioned the renovation of the Science Center. That was under his watch. And that was a very important thing because we have very strong science departments. But we had a lot to do. We had to really develop a very thorough facilities master plan. We didn't have that. We did not have very high priority at all in the UW system or in the legislature or the governor. And in my feeling was the quality of the programs, the quality of the people was outstanding, and they deserved a facility that respected that. Now, I spent a lot of time in Madison. I was watching all kinds of wonderful things happen in Madison, at UW-Madison, huge buildings going up, and I love that institution. I'm very proud to be, in a system where UW-Madison's part of it. But it dawned on me that the comprehensive universities generally, and UW-Oshkosh in particular, were not getting their fair share of support for the people in this part of the region for a master's granting institution, and we need to do something about that. So basically, we convinced people that we had a good idea. We were thinking of facilities master planning. You have to think out 10 and 15 years. And we had to convince people that we knew what we were doing, and we knew where our priorities and our problems were. And we were in a financial situation where there wasn't a lot of GPR dollars coming for buildings. And we wanted to get in the position to get some of those because we weren't, quite frankly, in line in any significant way. In the meantime, we had huge need for a recreation and wellness center. Parking was a huge problem. And those two things are entirely, and also another thing, expansion and renovation of the student union, right, which Chancellor Kerrigan likewise got underway. All those projects, the student union, the rec and wellness center, the parking ramp, which, by the way, there's a rule in the UW system when I came here that no comprehensive campus could have a parking ramp. It made no sense. We're a very compact campus. We needed to solve our parking problem with a parking ramp as part of that, And so all those funding sources are not taxpayer dollars. Right. They're all student fees and or in a parking ramp, the fees that faculty, staff, and students, and some of the faculty and staff particularly don't appreciate have to pay for parking, and I can empathize at a certain level. So that got us rolling. Sure. And then the biggest thing is the Elmwood Commons project, which will bring all the advising, career counseling, and services together, renovated, probably a new building, That's in this budget as well. In fact, that's in all 4 versions of the budget.
The $48 million classroom building.
Right, now
That's-
now that's finally state dollars coming
Right.
to this area, the state. Which
So of the 3 building requests, that's the one that is more likely to go.
Well, no, they're all in.
Oh, they're all in.
The funding necessary to relocate the facilities maintenance
Okay.
over to purchase Cub Food,
Okay.
renovate it for facilities maintenance. By the way, we got a lot of parking over there, which helped us out
Yeah, yeah.
too. Then on the facilities maintenance site, to place the $48 million academic building, just to give you a quick sense, that would be twice the size of recreation and wellness, 200,000 square feet. Would put on there. That's in all 4 versions. That's even in the state assembly version of the budget, as is Elmwood Commons renovation.
Okay,
That's
that
an
was-
$8.5 million one. Okay. The one that isn't in the assembly budget is the $35 million residential hall.
Right, I understand
And
that.
in fact, they have all 6 of them across the system. One at Oshkosh and Madison and Eau Claire and a couple of other institutions.
This really points out this vision and the strategic plan that we've been talking about is somewhat lacking in the city. And here's a person who comes in, makes this strategic plan, and look at all of the building blocks that he's achieved on this. I think that's pretty remarkable.
Absolutely.
This just quickly, until we get too much jargon here.
Yeah, yeah.
This is one of our key operational plans, the facilities one, but it is driven by the strategic plan,
Sure.
which we worked on with hundreds and hundreds of people when I first came here,
Right, right.
because it's the mission that's important that we keep focus on, and how we're going to support that mission.
Right.
Well, the city is looking for an interim city manager and, you know, a full-time city manager after that, perhaps. You know, maybe you'd like to, I don't know, do a little moonlighting.
Yes.
No, I got to tell you, I really respect Richard. I know Richard very well.
I do as
mean,
well.
He like all of us, you know, sometimes things are said, and it'll be said of me too. And I kid Chancellor Kerrigan about this. Someone once told me the 2 best times that a chancellor or a president of a university serves the university: when he or she comes and when he or she leaves. And you know, when you do a stretch in this day and age in a highly public venue, you know, of a public good like a city or a university, and you're in there, you know, 8 to 10 years, you've done your duty at that particular point. And I think people need to understand that. You know, we're all part and parcel of the successes and the failures that we have at the university. I mean, things that we don't do as well, it's partly my problem. Things that we do well, I get a little bit of credit for that, but so do a lot of other people.
Sure.
So I'm just a little, just to be honest, I'm just a little sensitive, a lot sensitive, of kind of laying disproportionately, you know, the senses of a problem of a place on an individual.
Of course.
It's kind of, let's find someone's head to roll. I mean, I just don't think that's not a Midwestern thing.
No, but I was simply making the point, and I wasn't pointing fingers either. I'm just simply making the point, Chancellor. The position's available. You've done a great job
Right,
here with a good
Without TIF
support.
districts.
Yep, and you know.
I think I'm
we
actually
might
out
be
of my
able to use
element
your
in the
help.
city. It would be a great challenge, but
Okay, now
I don't think I'm
a
qualified.
follow-up to that is that you do have a meeting. I got a memo through my wife's email that you're going to have a public meeting on Monday, October 1st at 4:30 p.m. in room 202 of Reeve Union.
Yes.
About this campus continuum at UW-Oshkosh, which is kind of tied to the access thing. Do you want to kind of explain that a little bit?
Yeah, it's as I think some people may recall, we started working with the city and with David Green and some other folks about 5 or 6 years ago, envisioning this kind of new urban neighborhood, and with Jackson, who had very similar ideas, and we brought some architects in, and we came up with kind of a vision for the Marion Road area, and we called it a living, learning, serving community. And within that, we thought it would be kind of neat to have an academic village of people who would want to come and buy homes there, and not only access the wonderful things at the university and in the community, but also contribute, because you know, as you get older, like in my age, you know, when I get ready to retire, I still want people to be dependent on me. I don't want them just to make my life wonderful, my golden years, you know, because I won't stay alive if I don't have a sense that people need me for something. And that's the idea of this academic village, now called Campus Continuum at UW-Oshkosh, as a possibility, working with the access group. So this open meeting, we through the UW-Oshkosh Foundation have funded a market feasibility study for basically a condominium project that would attract and retain people that would be interested in living in a setting like that and being involved with the community and the university. And we've done a lot of surveys. There's been some follow-up phone calls. And so now the folks from Campus Continuum are going to come. They did the survey with us. They've got some interesting things that they're doing. They're trying to network these types of communities throughout the country. And so as we promised, we want to share with the public what we've learned. How feasible is this? What are some of the concerns that people have? We tested some price points. We talked about what some of the programs would be. We talked about it being a condominium complex. Some people, as you'll see when the report comes out, they love the idea, but they're not too crazy about condominiums necessarily. Some of them have some concerns about the price point. So it's the kind of thing you do to try to make a good decision on whether an investment has financial legs. You're trying to find people that will say, yeah, you know what, I think I would buy a place like that. This is a pretty unique kind of idea, and so not a lot of people know how to do market studies on it, and that's Campus Continuum had some background in that in university. So okay, let's sit down, let's see if we can get some good information so we can make a good decision. So we wanted to publicize that. Actually, we're hoping that OCAT would cover that, but for I guess some good reasons they say they're not able to do that. We're trying to find some folks at the university through our resources. By the way, folks, OCAT, the founding of OCAT happened at the University of Wisconsin-Oshkosh campus. That's where this whole station evolved from eventually. I think some people forget that.
20-some years ago.
20-some, you remember. You're
Well,
not that
only,
old.
only because it's all over the place around here. 20 years.
20 years, yeah. So the whole need for us to, because I think it's very important. I think one of the reasons people are getting more and more comfortable with what Access Group is doing is they are trying to do things in a transparent way, and we want to make sure, particularly being a public entity, that whatever we do, it's highly transparent too. So what's the time and place again?
Okay.
October.
No, hold on. Monday, October 1st.
Right.
4:30 p.m.
Right.
in room 202 of Reeve Union.
Right. And
Okay.
we hope a lot of people can come, and we'll do our best to tape it.
Sure.
So maybe we could run it on OCAT too.
Sure. Talk to John Urban about that.
We
I'm
will.
sure he'll get you set up. I think it's a wonderful idea and a great concept. But, with every silver lining, as you said before, has a cloud.
No, every
cloud
cloud
has a silver lining
that's the
too,
flip side.
but
Okay.
they work in conjunction with each
Okay.
other. So you got to look at the negative here. Given our economic climate here, in a TIF district where the developer in that TIF district has now filed bankruptcy and so forth, and there's all kinds of questions looming about that. Given all that, do you think that this can work economically?
Well, that's why we're doing this study. I don't know yet. I mean, I've been given some briefings about what some of the findings are. I believe it can. The question is, under what conditions, when, and how do you set it up so that it'll work? So I think it's something that we have to be very careful with, because these kinds of sort of speak academic villages around the country have flourished. There are a few of them around the nation in many places, but they failed in others. So the issue is here, how do we set it up so we maximize success in there? I mean, I think it's very important in that particular area to get some folks that want to live there and own a home. I very much respect what Bishop and Alexandra, the Youngbachers, have done, and the Swabs, and in terms of the initial apartment kinds of things that are in there, and they're very high quality. They're built very well. Actually, the Morgan Crossing one is just really an exciting one. I know there's some issues and so on, but these are big projects, and I think we all should be very pleased that we've got, in this case, a couple of developers. They love Oshkosh. They're in there. They're doing the right thing. And, and I like to remind a lot of people, those things wouldn't be going as well as they are if the state's third largest university wasn't there. Most all of, if not all of the development that's occurred in Marion Road has been successful to this point because of the presence of the university and its students and its faculty and staff. The hotel motel I really do think is a good idea. We're all architects. I've heard some people say, I don't like this or that, but the point is that I think that's going to go. I mean, essentially you would have a hotel almost on a campus because you're going to be able to walk underneath it. We probably outside of EAA are the biggest reason that people visit the city and stay overnight. I mean, we do all kinds of searches, we bring some speakers in, performing groups, and we're never going to make an exclusive agreement with any particular hotel. We just tell people what's there, but someone's going to say, people are going to say, whoa, that's right on the campus, So I think the financial success of that hotel is in many ways ensured because of the presence of the university. Restaurant too, another one on the river, right?
Really?
Sure.
Next to the downtown, the whole thing. The office building, I'm not an expert in all that. If they've got the tenants, enough of them in there, I don't think access is foolish in that regard. You have to trust that they know what they're doing. This other piece is the most challenging one. The 120 condo units. That's a big one. We got to be very careful about how that one is done. And so.
But you're committed to it, and
absolutely.
And I think that no matter what the feasibility study shows, maybe with some tweaking, it can come to fruition.
Yeah, and maybe some further research. One of the things we're doing is we're trying to see if we can get a few of the people that have showed tremendous interest in possibly buying in a location like that to come and do a focus group with them. Learn more about what it is they like, what are some of the issues, get them involved. When you get people involved and buying in, and hey, one of the things you can do is help us design this. You have a better chance of having it go. We may have to go out and do some more research, contact some more people, and that type of thing. So we'll just have to see what the next steps are. In the end, people that are going to invest in something like that have got to have some sense that they've got a core group of tenants that are going to come in, and not tenants in this case, buyers that are going to come in, and then they'll start putting the investment in the development and building of it.
Okay. Can we talk about the sports complex for a
Sure,
little bit,
you
or
bet.
did you have something else on that topic that you wanted?
No, I want to
say?
switch to faculty and students. So let's go that
Okay.
route first.
Because that's also tied in with development. The Oshkosh Sports Complex, which I think most people who have been here for any length of time know as Titan Stadium, with some new additions and features added to it. There have been some complaints, and the complaints. I've only heard the complaints from one person at the Common Council meeting.
A regular.
Yes, and I don't know if there have been additional complaints or if it's just, multiple complaints from the same household. But the complaints have been, both to police and Common Council, about things like littering in people's yards, noise, light spillage, parking, and even reduced property values. Now, you and I talked about this when I booked you for the show, and you had indicated to me, and I had found this through my own research, that as far as property values go, we didn't find any property values that had come down. And as a matter of fact, they had gone up. Now, have you since then heard or seen anything to the contrary about property values?
No, Cheryl, I haven't actually studied the property values. If someone asked me to guess whether they went up or down in the last 5 years since we've enhanced the Oshkosh Sports Complex, I would have guessed they went up. And well, why would that be? Because there's a $5 million enhancement of the Oshkosh Sports Complex. I mean, the property looks so much better. Let me back up a moment. We do work hard, and we want to continue to do that. We're not perfect, to be good neighbors, and there are some people that have been more public with their concerns, and there are others that have just directly contacted us. So there have been more than just one person raising a concern. And that's to be expected. The important thing for us is to respond to that concern. And we have. We've held, I think, 3 meetings for neighbors there. They laid out what their concerns were. We used their concerns to make some changes, like flooding was a concern, and we did, I forget what it was, a $30,000 or $40,000 project to take care of the flooding problems. you know, the lights out there, they were the old-time lights. And so the light spillage on those old lights, and they're very expensive to light, so to speak. We took all those out. That was a $300,000 project, dramatically reduced light spillage, so it hits on the field. And the same thing with issues about noise and also litter in the yards. You know, so you have a big event there, and it goes late, and you got to clean the place up. The neighbors they didn't want that stuff in their yard. Well, if you clean up right after the event, you're going to have a little bit of noise for a while, but you're not going to have garbage in your yard. So you're always playing some of those things off. Dust is another concern that we've heard. And we're actually going to move forward on a couple of areas where we're going to pave it for the parking that will reduce the dust. The city's done a great job, you know, fixing the street out there. Forget the main one that goes in front, and that type of thing. So yeah, there have been concerns, and any good neighbor on the other side listens to another neighbor's concerns. You don't always agree with them, but most of the time, you know, you say, okay, we understand it, particularly a facility like that. Titan Stadium's been there since 1970. And I was told there was stadiums, you know, or at least fields and one thing out there for a long time. So it's been there for a long time, you know. And so when people move into an area like that, they understand the area that they're moving in. Now, in fairness to the neighbors out there, what's happened because of the enhancements and this great idea, which many people in the state and others when they hear outside the state are very envious of, there are a lot more events. Well, why is that? Well, because we put, you know, this state-of-the-art field, prestige surface, what do they call it? You know, it's like a synthetic field out there, football and soccer, with a world-class track around the outside of it. All three high schools and the middle schools, and refurbished another track, use that facility. The baseball field is used by some of the high schools, the softball fields. And so I was telling somebody the other day, it was, you know, the first football game that UW-Oshkosh football team had when they went out in the play. I think there was already 6 high school games that have been played there. And the soccer and the so on and so forth. And Al Ackerman tells me he thinks, you know, that this is probably the most used surface in the country for high schools and colleges, you know. So why is that important, you know, generally to our community? Well, we have world-class facilities that our youth are being able to compete on. By the way, injuries are down dramatically. That's another thing about that surface, right? That has saved, and this has been going on for years and will continue, the taxpayers of Oshkosh millions of dollars because the schools do not have to build and maintain these facilities. Now the schools for 40 years have been using Titan Stadium, basically paying to turn the lights on and off. The maintenance, the replacement, that's been UW-Oshkosh students. You know, so we have been subsidizing, you know, we're not whining too much about this, but we have been subsidizing the school's needs, at least in the football area, for 40 years. And now we're doing soccer and football and track, and that's going to go on for the forever. So when you think about it, you know, and it's not an overstatement, that the taxpayers are being saved millions of dollars because of the way we're doing things in Oshkosh here. It's bringing more events from around the state and around the nation in, which is bringing millions of dollars of additional economic impact, and everyone's getting to pay in a world-class facility. The reputation of people coming to Oshkosh from all around the country is, oh my goodness, what a tremendous facility. All right, all that said, now those neighbors, back to those neighbors, right? Now you understand, and I understand why they've got some concerns. And so it's very important for us to pay special attention to address those to the best of our ability.
Well, and you know, with regard to light spillage, because I know that this was brought up for sure at a city council meeting, Councillor McHugh talked about how the sports complex had been given a lighting variance by the Board of Appeals. And I think the definite impression was given that that lighting variance, which basically came down to a zoning type variance, is what was causing this light spillage complaint from this one neighbor in particular. And you know, I immediately sent an email to the city council members because I happen to serve on the Board of Appeals. That lighting variance that we approved was not for the football field, which is what she was complaining about. It was for the baseball, softball diamonds. And point in fact, the lights were never put up. I mean, yes, we approved the variance, but the lights were never put up. And so, and no one on the council ever bothered to clarify that. And so I think that's important. By the way, why weren't the lights?
Well, the
put up?
lights are, the lights are on their way. We're still,
Are they?
we've got some of the funds to do it. We got to make sure we got them all before we go in
You
and
may
put
have
them
to
in.
reapply now.
Oh, darn, I didn't
No,
have
I
to be
think you might
exposed.
have to.
Well,
I think
who
you might
knows?
have
We'll
to.
have to check the time limitation. But they are away from the neighborhood. As
Yes,
you know, those
yes,
fields
they
are in the
are.
back. I guess it was an old landfill site back there where Coach Lechner's baseball field is. And the thing is, again, if I remember correctly, they actually went over and checked how much light was being thrown, into the neighborhood with the new lights up. In my understanding, it was no more than the street lights in the city. So, but before that, I mean, those lights were glaring everywhere, But the point is, again, I understand they're on more often now because the facility's being used. Just thank God we're not in Appleton, because the school. Just if you follow what's going on in Appleton in terms of each high school is trying to raise, money in the hundreds and hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, for similar kind of athletic facilities for each of their high schools. They're not for, they've got different challenges there. They do not have one field that all of these events go on. Hundreds of contests go on out there now on one facility. So the efficiency of it, the effectiveness of it, the quality, it's just a tremendously good model for how to do things in this day and age.
Well, I think that Counselor McHugh had some very harsh words about the university, and I don't know if you saw that council meeting or not, Chancellor, but he did talk about how, basically he said, that the university just does whatever it wants to do with no regard for anyone else. He may have even likened it to an island, kind of a nation unto yourselves. Those are my words now, not his.
Yeah.
But, you've already stated that you try to be a very good neighbor. But I think the neighbors are, or at least some, are upset about the fact that the noise goes on after 10 o'clock, and our ordinance in the city says 10 o'clock is when you have to stop making excessive noise. So how would you respond to why the university gets to continue after 10 o'clock, just like Waterfest does, just like Country USA kind of does?
It doesn't happen that often, and that's not it's not a justification for doing something that's a nuisance to people. And the extent it does happen, it's when there's overtime in the games or weather delays. There have been a few double headers, again, to maximize the use of the facility. And remember, we're talking not only about the university, we're talking about all the Oshkosh high schools. And I have to tell you, it let people know, if you haven't been in the area, so you can empathize a little bit with the neighbors, particularly when there's a Friday night high school football game. And actually I went over there last couple of Friday nights just to kind of check out what was going on outside. It's a happening. It's a place for the community to come together. It's more than just about a football game. If you go to a football game, you go in the crowds. Our son played for Oshkosh North. The biggest thing I miss since he graduated from high school is going to those Friday night games. I feel like I shouldn't be there because my son's not there, but I go every once in a while. But it's just wonderful community engagement that's going on there. But I didn't realize till I drove around how many younger people are on the outside, of the stadium as well. And the Oshkosh police are there, one thing or another, and they've got a right to assemble around there. But there's a lot. It's a community coming together in kind of a public square. And you've got people living there, and so people have got to pay attention, to that particular aspect of it. And so I can empathize with that piece, and we just have to keep doing the best we can to have it to be something that will be a good environment for people.
Well, and again, the cleaning equipment afterwards, that's kind of a necessary thing, unless they want to be awakened on a Saturday morning as the crews are out there cleaning up.
Right.
So it's kind of a horse apiece, I guess.
Yeah, it is.
I want to turn to faculty and students for
Okay.
a few questions. Personal observation, I said you've done a remarkable job on building your college structure, but it seems to me, just looking as an observer, that your 4 colleges are lopsided. College of Letters and Science is huge. College of Nursing is very small. In fact, I think you have more faculty in the communications department in the college than you have in faculty in the entire nursing college.
And probably an English department too.
Okay. Have you given any thought since you've been here to do some reorganization in terms of colleges because of that lopsidedness, or do you think that's really not a real
No,
thing?
I don't. I mean, there's always a possibility that one might reorganize and structure colleges and academic departments, but, in an institution, that basically is comprehensive in nature, when you have letters and science in one college, some places have it broken up. I don't think, every situation, there may be a reason why you would want to have a smaller number, like say a College of Social Sciences or College of Natural Sciences, not have it all in letters and sciences, but there is some value to having larger college as well. I think it has more to do with the way that you're trying to make sure that certain professional colleges are set up in a way that, quite frankly, allows them to be competitive. If you have you could have a professional studies college. One model would be you take the College of Business and the College of Education and Human Services and College of Nursing and put them in and call them a College of Professional Studies. That used to be, I don't even know if Oshkosh had that, they may have for a while. So now you've got balance. Well, what does that mean? I mean, so what are the pros and cons, the costs and benefits of having 2 large colleges or 7 small ones, or 1 large one and 3 smaller ones? There are all kinds of issues with that. And, I guess I've learned over the years, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Sure.
And I think some people on the campus disagree with me. They think there's reasons why, the arts and sciences faculty can team up on us for certain issues and so on and so forth. But I think when you do more university-wide strategic planning and you're giving voice to everybody as much as you possibly can, it pretty much takes away some of those issues. So right now I don't really see the need to restructure. I've seen people go through and do reorganizations. For instance, when I came here, a lot of people wanted to restructure right away. That's a common thing to happen when you come in new. And you got to determine, are you just shifting the chairs in the Titanic? Wouldn't it more important to figure out where the heck we should be going, and then we'll decide whether the structure we have now in this particular area will serve us well, or maybe we need to change it. And so we've just not really, we've talked about it, but we've never really developed a strong consensus across the campus that we needed to reorganize.
A couple questions on faculty. I know you want more tenured faculty, and that $2.6 million will help for that. Right now, what is the percent of non-tenured faculty at UWO roughly?
Well, I know the statistic more in terms of the roughly the percentage of tenured and tenure track faculty to teaching academic staff. So we're dealing with somewhere just under 40% of our total teaching complement is tenured and tenure track faculty, and around 60% is teaching academic staff. And we've all agreed that that's a proportion that we'd like to shift more in the direction that we would have a larger percentage of our teaching complement, so to speak, as tenured and tenure track faculty.
What was it when you came here? Any idea?
Well, it was actually a little bit better than that. I mean, part of the budget cutting that's gone on has made it impossible for us at least to address that issue in a positive direction. We're now starting to move that way. We did the largest number of searches in the university last year. I think it was probably just under 30 or so searches across the campus. The year before that, we were doing a handful, less than 10.
Okay.
And we're really sitting here, trying to make the case that we've done the right thing. We've grown, which is another issue, during all this. And the budget priority that we've received from everybody except the state assembly to add much needed tenured and tenure track faculty in high demand areas is very important to us. So if we would get that funded, or some significant part of that, we would be doing another 30 or 40 searches, and we can make some real progress on that. So that's a brutal fact about us that we need to work on.
You've been here for 7, 8 years now. What are the 1 or 2 main faculty complaints that you hear all the time? What are things that upset faculty? I know they get upset by a lot of things, but but just a couple of general.
Well, I think
salaries.
Yes, of course, at a certain level.
Okay.
I mean, they want to be fairly compensated, and I think that is a significant concern. I think even of greater concern, not to push that one away, because I think that's important. I mean, when you're sitting there and you go through and you get a 1% raise, 0% raise, you can't even say raise, one year, and then 1% the next, and your co-pays go up, and all that kind of stuff, we're losing ground. So that is a big issue. I think the other thing is that this whole nastiness of coming from some quarters and attacking the faculty as, they don't work very hard, they're overpaid, some of the rhetoric you hear coming out of the legislature and some other places beyond it, our faculty just don't deserve that. These are very good people, they're very dedicated, they're very passionate in what they do. There are always exceptions in any field, in any professional field. And to have the situation of your compensation not keeping up, your funding for supplies and equipment, one thing being cut back, your class sizes going up at some level, and then you're going ahead and you're plowing away and you're doing your darndest and so on, and on top of that you're getting beat up on, that you don't deserve what you get. To me, that's the thing that I think has the potential of being most demoralizing. With any person. It's one thing not to have the compensation that you feel you should, but it's another thing that people disrespect you.
I understand.
And those would be the two things that I think they're most concerned with. But to tell you the truth, I mean, I'm sure it's out there in a certain sense, but I've been very proud and very pleased that there's not been a systemic, whininess on our campus. Our faculty and staff are above that. But to say that they're not concerned about what's happening here, and these are people that have options. They can leave, they can go. And quite frankly, I'm surprised that we haven't had more turnover. We've had some, but it shows you that we've got some good people. We need to get this thing turned around. 6 years in a row of having a budget cut, being the last, being the entity that, they can handle it, we'll just raise tuition, they'll figure it all out. This is enough. While the campus has increased in size, and I think people are starting to get the message, this isn't fair. So these people continue to work hard, they're teaching more students, they have not had their compensation keep up with their peers. So let's pat them on the back, let's thank them, and beyond that, let's get some resources reinvested in this public good, because it's not really about us in the end, it's about what we have to do for the public of Northeast Wisconsin and beyond.
Question on students real quick.
Sure.
All universities in this country after the tragedy at Virginia Tech came up with a proactive plan to make sure that didn't happen on their campus. And so I know you have this, this committee, the UW-O Student at Risk Response Team. I want to ask a more specific question. It seems to me the conflict at Virginia Tech was the issue of the confidentiality of a student's mental record versus the right of the public to know. Those are two tough issues to balance. Right. And in my experiences, the student confidentiality issue usually wins. Can you how would that work? Because ultimately, won't you have to decide whether you're going to break the confidentiality of that student in a hypothetical case like Virginia Tech to protect the public? How do you work that?
Boy, that's a really good question and a very important question. I mean, on the one hand, if you give any sense that you're not going to respect confidentiality of a student or a faculty member, or a staff member, or an administrator, that goes to someone on our counseling center and is trying to get help and is troubled and so on and so forth, then if it gets out that you're not going to respect that and help them, then people are not going to come and get help when they need it.
Precisely.
So it's not like, well, it's just easy. When you know for sure, and that's the other problem, that you need to violate the confidentiality to protect the greater public, they just do it. It isn't that simple. So the point that we're all going through now is making sure that we are trying to develop a proper balance for that in particularly difficult cases. And you have federal law around FERPA, for example, the Privacy Act, and so on and so forth, and you have interpretations of that, of what your legal counsel is telling you can or you can't do. But in the end, it lands in a lap of a person like me.
Exactly.
These cases are all unique, in many cases very complicated. 99.999% of the time, they're not going to lead to someone, a tragic situation that happened at Virginia Tech. So you got to be careful that you don't start, overreacting and start violating confidentiality And also, violating one of the most fundamental things about our democracy is people's right to free assembly, free speech, and to being eccentric. I mean, some people are mentally troubled, but most people are mentally troubled. They're not going to turn out hurting themselves and hurting others. I mean, we got to be careful about that. We all know people that have had challenges with their mental health in one thing or another, and so it's not like there's just this little group of people out there. We got to go find them and make sure that we keep them under control. So it's very important to be careful because you can do a lot of things, assumedly because you want to protect everybody, and in the end, you're causing the kind of situation that really threatens the fundamental nature of what makes a university, academic freedom, which makes a democracy, free speech and freedom of assembly. And as we get older, and just looking at you and I, not looking at Cheryl, someone told me, a social gerontologist, that what happens is you become more and more eccentric to yourself and to others. You just the heck with it, I don't care. And then people start looking at you like maybe there's something wrong with you because you're not quite the same as everybody else.
You're kind of experiencing that already too?
Yeah, I'm starting that. I'm starting to see people looking at me like, he's a little odd, that kind of thing. But I mean, that's what's wonderful about people.
Yep.
And so that's one reason we're putting together. Jim Simmons is helping do this with Tom Grogan out of my office, Professor Simmons, a panel, another one. We did a similar panel last year on academic freedom and responsibility. This year we're going to do one in November on freedom and safety. Is kind of the working title of it now. How do you weigh the very question that you're asking? There's no crystal ball solution to that. There's no manual that I can open up and say, okay, yep, you do this or you do that. And you really need the help of the entire community to create the right kind of atmosphere where people feel safe to express themselves. But also, when people are having problems, we need to intervene. There are, for example, the state needs to take a serious look at its stalking law. We have one of the weakest stalking laws in the country. Well, if you make a stalking law that's so strong that people can use it in ways that wasn't intended, that violates people's freedom of assembly, then that's a problem.
Sure.
But so we all have to look at this throughout our state and our country in terms of how to work through this.
That's a thoughtful answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Had some other questions, but we don't have time to get into them because they're more lengthy answers probably than we've got time for. But just kind of along those lines, at least one of the schools within the UW system is contemplating, or they have recently decided, to arm their campus officers with tasers. Now, our officers on campus here at UWO carry weapons, correct? They carry firearms. Do you anticipate that they will be carrying tasers at some point?
No, I do not.
Okay.
That's the best I can answer that right now. That we have no proposal, regarding the use of tasers. Quite frankly, Chief Mellon, we've been working with him, and Petra Roeder, that's where public safety reports to. We're trying to deal more with making sure that we have enough officers on the campus. We had to at least make a cut in a position or so, and we're doing some searching right now. Our issue is more on getting our force as fully deployed as it needs to be, working in greater cooperation with the Oshkosh Police, which we have a pretty good relationship with now. Better training. We had, for example, an active shooter training on our campus for all the law enforcement people throughout the area. And also, quite frankly, part of the training for me is to get our campus public safety, campus police force involved in the discussion about safety and freedom.
Okay, excellent. Got to cut you off there, but we will not make it this long again. We'll have you back sooner next time.
Okay.
Right.
Thanks a lot.
Well,
Thank you
for
very much,
inviting
Dan.
me. I
Thank you.
appreciate
Thanks
it.
to the crew, and as always, thanks to you. We'll see you again real soon. Until then, take good care. Keep your eye on us. We've got our eye on Oshkosh.